I'm going to call the Business and Finance Committee meeting to order. Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Atkins. Present. Trustee Canada.
Here.
Trustee Jenkins.
Present.
Trustee McGinnis.
Present.
Trustee Rowe.
Here.
We have a quorum and I call the meeting to order. The first item on our agenda is to approve the minutes for the April 11th, 2025 Business and Finance Committee meeting. The minutes were circulated in advance. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? Hearing none, I move to approve the minutes as written.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The minutes are approved. The next item on our agenda is the consideration of the tuition rate for the Tennessee Aspiring Administrator Program Network grant recipients. Before asking for a motion, I'd like to call Dr. Sharuz Rupavar, Vice President for Finance and Administration, to provide the information on this item.
Thank you, Trustee Canada. Good morning, Board Chair, Committee members. Our first item for consideration is creating a tuition rate to match the amount awarded to graduate students who are participants in the Tennessee Aspiring Administrator Program Network grant. These students will be enrolling at Austin Peay to earn their master's in education and go on to become administrative leaders at K-12 schools in the state. This grant has a total funding opportunity for Austin Peay of $6 million over the next 5 years. We get about 200 participants each year in this grant with a graduation rate of 98%. Then those graduates take the administrative and supervision licensure exam, for which the graduates have a pass rate of 96%. We have been participating in this grant for the past few years and are currently issuing scholarships to the students from this grant to cover any amount remaining after the grant awards. With your approval of creating a special tuition rate for these graduate students, we can stop the manual process of applying the individual scholarships. This change will not impact the university's financial performance, as the revenue will be reduced by the same amount as the scholarship expenses. Thank you for your consideration of this item, and I welcome your questions.
Do I hear a motion to approve the tuition rate for the Tennessee Aspiring Administrator Program Network grant recipients as requested?
I'll move.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Secretary, please call the roll.
Trustee Atkins. Trustee Atkins.
Yes.
Trustee Canada.
Yes.
Trustee Jenkins.
Yes.
Trustee McGinnis.
Yes.
Trustee Rowe.
Yes.
The motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the consideration of the estimated budget for the 24-25 fiscal year and the proposed budget for the 2025-26 fiscal year. Associate Vice President for Budget and Finance, Sandra Hamilton, will provide the information on this item.
Good morning, and thank you, Trustee Canada. So in today's presentation, we're going to cover both the current year's estimated and next year's proposed operating budgets for APSU.
Sandra, could you speak up louder, please?
Yes. The university's operating budget includes two categories of funds: the unrestricted education and general funds that support instruction, student and administrative operations, and also the auxiliary funds. And you'll see that on this slide. The revenue is also split between those two funds. The auxiliary funds, they are self-sustaining units such as our housing, dining, and bookstore and other campus services. This budget is a plan to align financial resources with expenditures to cover essential overhead costs as well as strategic priorities and that would advance the university's mission. The first slide here that you see shows the revenues, funds available by major category. A key difference from the estimated to the proposed is the line for the rebudgeted carry forwards that you will see in the estimated, but it doesn't appear in the proposed budget. That amount will not be known until we close our fiscal year at June 30th. That number will be reflected in the October revised budget that we bring to you in December. Both the estimated and proposed budgets are realistic projections. They're based on analysis and historical data. Key takeaways, I just want to mention them for the fiscal year 26 proposed budget are that tuition and fees were projected with flat enrollment. But this time we did include the 5% tuition increase in that. The approved state appropriation is also showing here, and it is an increase to cover employee salaries and employee benefit increases. You'll look at the tuition and fees and you'll see that there is a decrease. That decrease is attributed to a net of the increase for our tuition, 5% tuition increase, but yet we had a decline in the a potential loss, we don't know yet, in the revenue for community services tuition. There's an Army Ignited, I call it a grant or a contract, that we may not be able to receive a substantial amount of revenue that we have recognized in the past couple of years. If that changes, it'll be shown in the October revised, and I'm hoping that it will. The second slide that we have presents the revenue spread across primary functional classifications. The overall decrease across these functions has to do with what I mentioned earlier, that from 25 to 26, we do not budget non-recurring carry forwards. Those are not shown again until the October revised. Lastly, the same expenses that were shown on slide 2 are here on slide 3 by category, or what we call natural classifications. Salaries and benefits for fiscal year 26 increased because of the state appropriation adjustment that will be effective July 1. Operating shows a decline. However, that is a direct result of, in the previous year, we had carry forwards budgeted on operating expenses, and in 26, of course, those are not reflected. So before I close, there's just a couple of points that are a couple of things I want to leave you with that I see when I look at our budget. First of all, in this year, this is the first year that we are not relying on HERF money. Totally no HERF money in this. This is all us. So I'm kind of proud of that. We have a balanced budget, and we're able to, move forward and advance the university with our own. And then the formats that these slides present are kind of in compliance with the governmental accounting standards. And while it's very meaningful to us and what we report out, it may not be that meaningful to people who kind of glance at the slides and it's like, well, what is that? Or what is that really saying? So just one very important point that I want to make is that in our budget, 70% of our revenues go to support student education and student success. And that is shown, and if you'll go back on the slide, that is shown in the functional categories of instruction, research, public service, academic support, and student services. So that's a very large part of our budget. And then the revenue that we bring in from student tuition and fees, more than 100% of that goes toward student education and student success. So I feel like that is kind of some important, just kind of something that I think is important for us all to know. That concludes my presentation, Trustee Kanata. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Outstanding. Thank you. First, you'll hear a motion to approve the estimated budget for the 2024-25 fiscal year and the proposed budget for the 25-26 fiscal year.
Make a motion.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Now that it's moved and seconded, is there any discussion?
Even though we don't have the HERF money, when we had the slide up and it showed, if you could put that up again, I'm sorry.
Revenue.
Yes, ma'am. The overall, there was 22 million proposed, 26 million estimated. I think I saw that right. Is that typical like it was kind of that different, or sorry, 206 to 202. That difference, was that similar to what it was last year, that difference, even when we had the HERF money?
It is, and I guess, Trustee McGinnis, to your point is, it wouldn't be a standard practice for us to use non-recurring revenues to support our recurring expenses, but we definitely had, it was a very well thought out plan to get us through, and I think I'm gonna use this again. Dr. Licari, you said it was putting a Band-Aid on something that we knew we had to really address by looking at expenditures and reducing or making the most of our expenses, and then hopefully, like we did this past year, grow our enrollments to produce more revenues. Yes.
Yeah, that was the work that we were doing over the last several years, was to move state appropriations up, and those have increased 52% since fiscal 21, and move tuition revenue up over the last several years as well, because we knew that inside of this fiscal year, the HERF money was not going to be available, so we were going to have to replace all of that HERF money and then some if we wanted to do anything more with our own sourced funds, either state appropriations or tuition revenue. And we've accomplished that and then some.
Great, thank you for the hard work.
What's the, when you add a student, you add so much revenue, how much cost is associated with each student?
It depends. It depends on where the student is enrolling. It depends on sort of natural stair steps. You know, you can absorb students in certain academic programs for a while. So the 31st student in a political science class that I maybe was teaching wasn't that big of a deal. But that 60th student now is a big deal, because we need to break that class into 2 sections, and you need to hire another one of me to take on that extra set of 30 students. So it's hard to just say that the marginal cost of a student is X, because in a university setting, growth is pretty lumpy.
On that note, I noticed that commencement, one of the services I was at, that there were several, I believe it was Associate of Science graduates. So to your point, you know, those are a shorter term potentially, unless they stay and get a bachelor's, but then we still get the benefit of those students being here for 2 years.
Correct. So we do have a lot of different kinds of students. We have our traditional full-time students. We have, of course, graduate students, and you approved a couple of new graduate programs earlier in this setting. We have a lot of part-time students, especially as the result of our military population. 30% of our student enrollment is military affiliated, and many of those are part-time. And so part-time students, of course, don't pay as much tuition, but they put the same amount of costs in a lot of ways on the university. And so it's hard to just pick an average number.
And the tuition-free program starts too.
It's this fall.
Right, so we'll have the cost of educating those students, and we'll get the benefit of the state appropriation, but those students, of course, won't be paying under.
Well, they'll be paying. It's a last dollar scholarship, so the revenue that is generated by those students will continue to come in the form of other scholarships, Pell Grants, state programs like the lottery scholarship, things like that.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you so much. That was very helpful. You did a great job explaining all of that.
Sandra, I have a question. Your operating expenses in 25 were 64 million, yet you go to 26 and you're proposing that they be 56 million. How are we taking $8 million out of our operating cost?
So it's the budgets that we're presenting in and you're looking specifically at scholarships. Is that what you asked?
Operating
Just operating overall. Okay, so in the estimated budget, we have monies in there that come from the previous fiscal year, and it goes across all of the different functional areas. So $5 million is spread across all of those expenses that in fiscal year 26, it's not there until after we close the fiscal year, and then in October, it will be reflected in that. And then, of course, it'll go across all of those functional areas and operating.
Yeah, our expenses won't go down. They they never do. The trick is right now, we can't build a healthy amount of money into what we're presenting here because we don't know what that is yet. It'll be reflected in the October revised budget that the board will see in December.
That primary difference is what you're seeing from fiscal 24, right? So that carry forward is what we went unspent in fiscal 24 and we have to spend in fiscal 25. And then we'll do the same thing again next year in fiscal 26. We'll have fiscal 25 unspent.
I was getting ready to enroll in Austin Peay because my business costs are going up.
Any other questions or comments? If not, Secretary, please call the roll.
Trustee Atkins.
Yes.
Trustee Canada.
Yes.
Trustee Jenkins.
Yes.
Trustee McGinnis.
Yes.
Trustee Rowe.
Yes.
The motion carries. The next agenda item is the consideration of the capital outlay and maintenance request for the 26-27 fiscal year. Mark Brunner, Director of Capital Planning, Design, and Construction, will provide this information.
Thank you, Trustee Kanata. Good morning. Today I have one capital outlay project to present, which is the Military Academic Building. This has a not to exceed budget of $38.5 million. The renovation includes construction of space for culinary arts, ROTC, the Institute for National Security and Military Studies, communications with a focus on sports broadcasting and athletics. This will be the third year the project has been submitted to Tennessee Higher Education Commission.
Are you?
I have the maintenance to go over to.
Okay, very good.
This year, we're also bringing forward 6 deferred maintenance requests for a total of $12.3 million. They include a new chiller and exterior improvements in the power plant, fire alarm upgrades and centralization, a second chiller replacement also in the power plant, a request for an additional $2.5 million for the Sunquist fume hood and HVAC improvements. We previously received $1.5 million for that several years ago. We were unable to complete the project with those funds. Modular boiler installation and music mass comm, Trey Hearn and Art Design, and envelope repairs for Browning, Woodward, and Claxton. Who's my presentation? I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Before that, do we have a motion to approve the capital outlay and maintenance request for the 26-27 fiscal year?
Make a motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, it is moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Questions for Mark?
I guess I have a question. Is how do we fund all this? Is that funded? Or is this a pipe dream or is this something we have money for?
It's always a dream. The maintenance is fully funded by the state. However, the past several years, we have not received what THEC has identified as our financial need. We got $2 million, I believe, in the past 3 years, which is done. We appreciate what they give us, but that's fully state funded and we never get what we need, unfortunately. The outlay project is mostly funded by the state. There is a match requirement for all outlay projects. Ours is 4% for renovation, 6% for new construction, and there's a gift match for new construction. This is a renovation, so there is no gift requirement, but there is a match for us.
So what's in here that really has to be done? You would consider critical that needs to be done.
In the maintenance, it's listed in priority, but they're all very critical. And this changes from year to year. as one year passes to the next, things happen and we have to reprioritize the items that we present. And this also has a 5-year look ahead, again, $12.3 million, but those change even more wildly from year to year. So the most pressing are the chillers in the power plant because they're at their end of life and they're being nursed along.
I guess the irritation I get with this kind of thing is that we knew when we, and this is not to you, Mark, we knew when we put the chiller in, it had a life expectancy. Yet we never planned for when you're gonna need like a roof. This new building, this science building out here in 20 years is gonna need a roof. And so we should be planning on that now and having money put aside so that, oh, my goodness, 20 years went by and the roof is leaking and we don't have any money to fix it. I've served on city commissions and federal governments and all that, and they never plan, or a new school gets built and nobody ever expects you're gonna have to repair the chiller and all that. And then it's a big shock when you need $10 million to fix the chiller. So how did we get past that in the state? How do we put a plan forward and say, okay, this new science building over here is going to need a roof in 20 years or a chiller or whatever? Start putting money back out. It's not a rhetorical question. How do we get that information to THEC?
We partner very closely with the state and we rely on the state for the money for all of this deferred maintenance. And the state has recognized the issues you're identifying. And THEC has actually retooled some of their requests to reflect this shortfall. This is a statewide problem. I forget how much there is a deferred maintenance shortfall, but it's something in the billion. I think it's close to $1 billion statewide. Every university has this problem. At one hearing, it was openly acknowledged. This is a major problem. And I think there's some effort out there to reward more renovations than new construction. And that's one way to address it, is say, okay, renovations include these deferred maintenance upgrades. And so when that happens, those deferred maintenance problems can go away. One of the things that saved us, it's ironic, but the fact that we had so much hail damage, there are no roof projects on this because we're getting them all replaced with insurance proceeds. So that's one thing that's Sunquist. Hopefully we can knock that out with the insurance proceeds. But it is a problem, and I don't think anybody has come up with a solution yet.
What happens if something doesn't get approved by THEC? And it goes out like a chiller and we pay for it because we didn't get the money. So then do we go back and say, oh, we had an emergency and we're just out, right?
No, that's it.
That's what I thought. Okay.
So if I may, I'd like to add a little bit to that and to your point of the state. We have been lucky enough, I guess, over the years to rely on the state. We're getting to a point now and it's been talked about, addressed, but however, maybe the state is not going to be able to come through for us. We have had discussions about building a renewal and replacement fund is what we call that. And it's a plan based on, like you said, 5 years, we've got to replace a roof. We do that in our auxiliary services, like in our housing area. Money's moved over there knowing that in 5 years, 10 years, whatever, this big expense is coming. So we haven't been able to do that in our operating budget. So in our operating budget, being able to transfer a sum of money over to that kind of a reserve for when this can happen and having a plan in place for when that needs to happen. But we have been having those discussions. We don't want the state to know that we're trying to plan our own, but those are things that we need to now continue to think about and consider in our operating budget.
You have a lot of other expenses to take care of.
We do.
And there
Student
is
education.
there is deferred work going on. It's just we're unable to tackle these items. I mean, they're just way too expensive.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Trustee Atkins, trustee Canada.
Yes.
Trustee Jenkins,
Yes.
trustee McInnes,
Yes.
trustee Rowe.
Yes, sort of.
The motion carries, sort of. The next item on the agenda is informational and is the review of the university's organizational chart. Dr. Rupivar, please provide this information.
Thank you, trustee Canada. Information item is for the committee. This information item for the committee is an annual update to the university's organizational structure. Your board materials include this detailed information. The primary items of note are the role of the assistant vice president for public safety was eliminated and split into two direct reports for the vice president as the director of emergency and risk management and chief of police. The Office of Event Services has transferred from the Division of Alumni Engagement and Philanthropy to the Division of Student Affairs. The Division of Athletics has streamlined operations, reducing the number of direct reports to the vice president to 5 departments accordingly. Additionally, 2 new head coaches have been added, bringing the number 12 to 14. The remaining items are primarily title changes. Thank you, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Questions or comments on this very well laid out org chart? Hearing none, this information item, it is an informational item. We do not need to have action on this. Unless there are any other comments or questions, I move that meeting adjourn.
Second.
It is moved and seconded that the meeting adjourn. All in favor say aye. All opposed say no. The ayes have it and the meeting is adjourned.